for those people that have been able to stick it out, keep going, stay strong, stay resilient. We will be great again as a city. We will continue to deliver great hospitality in Melbourne, and we just need to support each other and give our customers what they want, and we will drive that vision for Melbourne once again to be the great city that we have always known to be.
Melbourne prides itself on being an events capital, but that hasn't exactly been the case for the past 20 or so months. Today we are talking to Hatem Saleh, CEO of Atlantic Group, which has had more than its share of difficulties over the past couple of years, even more than a pandemic. Even so, Hatem is optimistic, dynamic as always, and about to launch a fantastic new event space. Hatem, welcome to Dirty Linen.
Hi, Dani. Thanks for having me on the show, and great to be here.
Yeah, it's fantastic to have you here, and there's certainly a lot to talk about. But why don't we start with, how you're feeling at the moment with Melbourne reopening, events back on the agenda, and a new space that you're about to launch?
Yeah, thank you. Look, I am very positive about Melbourne. I know that we have gone from the most livable city to a city that's had its ups and downs, and certainly a fair share of heartache over the last couple of years. Certainly from our perspective, it has been a very difficult period, but we remain optimistic and excited about the future. And as always, feel confident that being resilient and continuing to work hard and find ways really is the only way that, as hospitality in Melbourne, the only way that we can recover is to do great things and do better things than we were doing before, so that the industry starts to take shape and feel like we're again the most livable city. And certainly from an event perspective, entertainment perspective, hospitality perspective, and major events point of view, we need to remain front and centre to make sure that we are lined up and ready to go as people start having the confidence to come back out again.
Yeah. Well, I suppose, business is always problem solving and hospitality is always, putting out the next fire, but you've certainly had more than your share of adversity. Can you just take us back, let's say, to, mid-2019 and just tell me about Atlantic Group then and, the number of staff you had and the shape of the business?
Yeah, certainly. Look, back mid-19, we had a lot going on, lots of events happening, major events were flowing. Of course, we're a significant major partner at the Melbourne Cup Carnival, and the same as the Formula One Grand Prix. It all started on Friday the 13th, if you recall, when in March, when in 2020, of course, when the pandemic really hit. But if you wind the clock back 6 months before that, 28th of August 2019, we were sitting pleasantly at Central Pier, having just opened up on the same day our new venue, the Port Melbourne Yacht Club, on that day, and hosting a very terrific ladies' lunch for a major client. And on that day, we got the phone call to say evacuate Central Pier. And of course, when you look at what went down there and the whole period of dealing with events that were booked, close to over 1,000 events that were booked at the time, moving them around, trying to find new homes for them, and many clients just sort of wanting to sit and stay with us and hope that things will come back to normal and we'll be back on that pier. And of course, that never happened. And since then, and I can't talk about it too much more than to say that that's an ongoing issue that we continue to work through, and that we remain positive that the right outcome must take place there. Given the heartache that we have been put through, our staff have been put through, and I guess the dysfunction that took place when we were essentially told to leave and never go back. We never had another chance to make good there, and we never had another chance to continue to carry on our business there. And as I said, we remain positive in dealing with that. But of course, on the 13th of March at the Grand Prix, we're sitting there, we're waiting for the doors to open, and the doors don't open.
Hatem, it's just so much. And just to put people in the picture, so Central Pier, it's a long pier down at Docklands in Melbourne, just, obviously over the water. And the situation was that Development Victoria, the Victorian government agency, declared it at risk of immediate collapse, which sounds very alarming. I mean, I've walked through that venue with you, and I know the enormous amount of work that you put into it. When I say venue, a series of venues, series of kitchens, it's hundreds of staff. I know how much pride you had, rightly so, in all those different spaces. I've been to numerous events there. It was so great. I just can't imagine. Of course, you're talking about dealing with those people whose events were cancelled, but I mean, what was it like for you as the leader of this workforce and this site?
Yeah, I mean, certainly it was disheartening, Dani. And as you said, Central Pier for near on 13 years was a market leader hosting some of Melbourne's best events on a regular basis annually. The L'Oreal Melbourne Fashion Festival that later became the Virgin Fashion Festival, that was the home for almost 9 years, year in, year out. And so many corporate clients, so many weddings, so many events. I mean, we would host in excess of 1,000 events a year there. And as I said, when we closed, we had over 1,000 events that we had to reshuffle, reallocate, refine the new home for. And even to now, some of those clients, almost 2 years ago now, are still holding on, waiting for us to host their event that they've postponed and do it in one of our venues. And I'm excited to say that whilst that's been a very, very difficult time, and whilst no one should have to go through the pain and suffering that we went through when you've invested this significant amount of money, time, energy, effort, passion, and engagement for near on 13 years to create a hotspot that becomes an iconic Melbourne institution, national events, people coming from all around the place to visit Central Pier, was really disheartening to be told to evacuate the way that we did, and to hope and think that we'd be going back, and then to stay mobilised for near on 6 months, to then be told in January 2020 that we wouldn't be returning. And that was certainly a shock for us, a shock for the tenants, a shock for the staff, and a very difficult process to manage. But at the same time, you think, well, what do? Do you curl up in the corner, or do you stay strong and stay focused and think about how you're going to recover for something so dramatic and so catastrophic? And then, as I said earlier, so wind the clock forward, after we get told that we won't be going back in January, we're at the Grand Prix, we're excited, the 2020 Formula One Grand Prix, and of course, on Friday the 13th of March, the gates don't open. And to be standing there, to have near on 900 staff ready to go, excited and pumped, lipstick on, hair and face made up, uniform on, food prepped, everybody in place, everybody excited. Just completed our motivational speech to around about 600 of the 900 staff that were due to work that day, and we're told that unfortunately it won't open. Now, that was really for me the beginning of COVID-19. And for most of this city. And we've lived a very difficult and a very painful life in Melbourne, in Victoria, in Australia, and certainly hospitality has suffered dramatically in that last 18 months. And I think that's why now we're really focused and really excited about putting that behind us. We've invested a lot of time over the last 18 months while we were trying to navigate through this pandemic to work out what does it look like for us while the barriers keep changing, while the goalposts keep changing. How do we continue to evolve, keep our people, keep our staff, stay focused, stay motivated, create a bright future when we have no idea when this is going to end? Start, stop, lockdown 1, 2, 3, 5. And here we are, finally tonight, about to open our doors. I'm here at the Atlantic at Crown, and everyone's prepping. All the beautiful produce has been coming in, and everyone's been excited. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to to show you through Sophia, our new venue that we launched yesterday at the Prahran Arcade. And again, the inquiries have been flowing through thick and fast since we launched last night. And I think that's what everyone's excited about, Dani, getting back to reality, getting back to life as we once knew it. Sure, it will be different, but nonetheless, it's up to us as hospitality people, as entrepreneurs, as employers, to take our people on the journey, take our customers, take our staff, and really show them an exciting future ahead. And certainly that's what Atlantic Group intends to do.
Yeah, I mean, the continual sort of forward looking is really impressive. But do you kind of think, you know, when the pandemic hit, it was a massive shock, and you know, obviously it was also a shock for you. But do you think that, given that you were still, you know, in reeling and recovery mode from the Central Pier closure, do you feel like, did you have a sort of like, well, nothing can hurt us now, like whatever it is, we'll deal with it, keep throwing it, we'll deal with it?
It's funny that so many people that in the business world, in the business community, friends socially, have said to us and said to me, how have you kept on going? Now, you know, to go through Central Pier was hard enough for anybody to deal with in one lifetime, let alone back it up with a pandemic. So how do I feel today? I feel strong. I feel resilient. I feel focused. I feel on behalf of our group that it's an exciting time, only because we have no choice. You either take that approach and say, under any circumstances, given what we've been through, we will continue to find a way to jump over these hurdles and continue to find a positive way to stay alive and to double down, for no better word, on what does it look like after this is all done and dusted. And I certainly hope, for our industry's sake, for Victoria's sake, that was the last lockdown. That was the last time that we have to shut our businesses down, because I think Melburnians have done it hard. We know that we've done it harder than anyone else in the world, and I don't think it's fair to not have to get on with it. We need to live with this virus. We need to continue to showcase how we can advance ourselves and continue to operate. And I think hospitality has been really great at that in Melbourne. You know, every time we've opened, all the venue operators that I can think of have just done it and found a way to keep doing it, and under any circumstances do things properly so that they weren't forced to shut their businesses whilst they were working in a very difficult environment. But with that said, when we are told, unfortunately, we have no choice, you're shutting down, you have no control. And I think everyone is over not having control of their businesses, their lives, and their future. And I think it's time for us to get on with it and start to do what we need to do in the city.
Hatem, what are you going forward? What have you changed? You know, what might other people be able to draw from that you've done with your business, whether it's around, I don't know, risk mitigation or, you know, costs that, you know, sunk costs or outgoings that you've reduced? Like, what kinds of things have you reframed as you've, you know, had to reshape your business?
Sure. So I guess, Dani, from our perspective, looking at all things being equal, when you're up against it and things are difficult, you absolutely have to dig deep and understand what that looks like. And certainly just by the lack of operation, and going back from what we were talking about earlier, what we looked like as a business in, you know, mid-2019, with over 300 full-time staff, 11 to 1,200 casual staff operating between major events in our businesses from time to time, to winding that back to essentially about a quarter of that at any one time, between full-time and casuals. We're down to a different style of business that really is picking and choosing what we're working on and with. And certainly from our perspective, all of our current businesses, the Atlantic at Crown, Port Melbourne Yacht Club, Gardens House, we've taken on some management contracts that we're really excited about, similar to Gardens House with the Royal Botanical Gardens. They have a beautiful property at the Cranbourne Gardens. We've taken on the function space there, the ability to host events in gardens there. and the cafe that operates at the Cranbourne Gardens. We've gone into a contract at the Melbourne University Melbourne Connect building, which is a new build that I tried to open earlier this year, but of course, due to pandemic, had to stop. So we're on that journey. Beautiful banquet space there, a couple of great cafes, and above and beyond that, Ballarat, we've got a project that we have done with the Pelicanos to launch 2 great function venues, a theaterette, and a new cafe called the Nolan's Cafe, and then Boom Time Dumplings as well. So Ballarat, regional, that corridor, so many people, due to what's taken place in Melbourne, have shifted out regionally, and we think that it was the right time to attach our brand with the Pelicanos to an exciting project that certainly will reshape hospitality in Ballarat. There's lots of great things going on in Ballarat, and it's a really uncharted territories for a lot of people, but I think I was quite surprised when I went there and saw how many great offerings there are there, and we intend to add to that, to enhance the offering and to bring some Melbourne business regionally to Ballarat. There's a beautiful Quest hotel there, 88 rooms, plus our function facilities, a train station right next door. So we imagine that lots of events will get on the train, head down to Ballarat and come and join us to get away, do retreats and regroup, given so many people in the office haven't seen each other for a long time. And really, Sophia is the last project that we launched last night, which we're really excited about. 200 seat in one room, the gallery, 100 seats in the ballroom, and together, 300 or a cocktail party of up to 450, 500 people in eclectic brand. And I think that's the thing that excites me. Our projects are always in unique spaces. We always endeavour to do interesting things. And Atlantic Group has one more significant card up its sleeve that we'll announce in the coming weeks, and that will be a large venue that will seat around 1,000 people that we intend to bring back into the marketplace so that when large events start to take place again, we are ready to work and ready to showcase Atlantic Group's hospitality once more.
And where are you finding the staff to service all these venues? Because it's all anybody is talking about. There are just no staff around.
Yeah, look, it is a challenge. There's no question that the amount of people that have left this city, the visa holders that couldn't hold on anymore, the people that changed industries because of hospitality's start-stop nature and have gone to jobs that gave them some more certainty, along with people that just needed a change and just couldn't handle the dynamic and the idea around earning next to no money other than perhaps government handout or whatever little money we could continue to support people with while we're closed and no revenue's coming through. We've lost a lot of people in the industry, and I think it's up to each and every one of us to create an environment to help through the vaccination issue, to reopen borders, get students back in, get tourists back in, get people that want to come and live and work here so that we can resolve this problem. But, the attitude that we're taking, we are fortunate that a lot of people that have worked for us over the years, over the last decade, continue to still work for us from time to time. And I think through that database, we're able to continue to reach out to staff and have them join us as and where needed, enough to gradually open as the city's opening, as events are opening, and as we start to get to a point where we can do large events and the appetite's there from corporates and socials to hold larger events. I'd like to think that we will continue to be ready and have all of our great people back joining us to assist us in getting Atlantic Group up and running again at a capacity that is what we're relatively used to versus what we've had to navigate through over the last year and a half or 2 years.
I mean, where do you think people are sitting in terms of their appetite for large events and engaging with hundreds of other people in a space? I mean, do you anticipate needing to make changes in the way that you serve food, in the kinds of offerings that you provide, or do you think people are just going to be, just roaring to get back out there, just like, the days of old?
Yeah, look, I think it's a great question. I think the reality is there is a lot of people that are very tenuous about the idea of going into large environments, and that's completely understandable. I think it's, you watch kids going back to school and the nervousness. I can talk about my own children, certainly, that, out of 3, 2 of them have been very nervous about going back to school. So if you think about that mentality with young kids and them going back to re-socialise and reacquaint themselves with their friends, it's no different with adults. We are beings that need care, we need engagement, we need social interaction, and we've been deprived of that for so long. So I think it's going to be a slowly approach. I think people, there'll be mixed audience. The youngies that are, wanting that sort of, 18 plus, probably to about 25, 26, that will be just hanging to go out, waiting for bars and clubs and restaurants to open. And then certainly socially, the families that want to get out and see each other again and go to a restaurant and catch up and eat and drink together, because that's what we like to do. But I think the corporates will be the last ones to want to get a lot of people in a room together. I think the tennis is going to be a great example of, and given the flexibility post the 24th of November, with 90% vaccination, and the ability to get people into an environment by January, I think the tennis will be a great example of what's to come. But certainly from now to the end of the year, we'll see people coming out, but certainly not to the appetite that I think will happen come February next year when Australia is at 90% vaccination. At 80%, I think we'll be okay. There'll be enough people, but there's probably the right amount of staff to manage the amount of people that probably have an appetite to want to eat out. So I think that problem hopefully will resolve itself as the borders open, as people come back to the city, as corporate world starts to rejoin. I think the rest will resolve itself in due course.
Yeah, goodness me. And then the Grand Prix slated for April, what is that going to feel like?
Well, look, my conversations with Andrew Westacott as late as earlier this week, who's the CEO of the Formula One Grand Prix, he is extremely positive. He's extremely excited. I know that he and I have had many conversations about how we need to manage an event like this, and certainly the Australian Formula One Grand Prix has done a lot of work to ensure that they are race ready, COVID ready, and similarly us as partners, and touching on the conversation before around your question around what do we need to do as caterers or restaurateurs, we have had to change the offering. We have had to consider what going to a buffet type setup or a sharing meal looks like, or handling utensils, or staff managing those utensils on your behalf. Those considerations have certainly been made from our point of view, and I know that the Australian Formula One Grand Prix has done the same thing from their perspective to ensure that people can move freely within zones, to ensure that they can enjoy the event and not be compromised by doing something that they love, like attending a motorsport event like the Australian Formula One Grand Prix. I think the tennis league first up will really also set the guidelines of what that starts to look like, and I think based on the job that they did last year, that won't be a problem for them, and they'll do a great job again this year in 2022.
So is it like, instead of someone passing around a tray of canapes, they're passing around little boxes or little bamboo boats that people pick up? Is it as simple as that, or is it more highly engineered?
Yeah, no, I think it's as simple as that, and even more complex when it comes to, the idea of sharing a salad at a table, or an individual little bowl of salad that comes to you, or a side dish in the middle of a table at a function for 10 people. You probably won't see for a little while longer. Similarly, you're unlikely to see a tray of canapes floating around that everyone can dip their fingers into and grab a canape off that tray. It will absolutely continue to be individual items, well considered and well thought about in terms of how it goes from the chef's hands to the customer's mouth, certainly those ideas will be considered and have been considered for us to be able to operate over the last year and a half. But I think people are ready to come out. People are ready to live life again, and we want to make sure that we do everything that we need to do at our end to give them that comfort that the waiter that's serving their food, the barman that's making their drink, the host that's taking them to their table or looking after them for that 2-hour block at a restaurant or that 5-hour block at a function, they're well looked after. And Atlantic Group has really put a lot of time and energy into thinking that through to ensure that our customers and our staff are also comfortable coming to work and feel like they are also in safe hands by the way that we operate.
Hatem, I'd just love to go, wind the clock back a bit. Can you tell me what drew you into hospitality and events in the first place?
It's a great question, Dani. I think from my point of view, it happened by default. I was 16 years old. Unfortunately, my mother fell quite ill, and my parents, being blue-collar workers, didn't have insurance, had a mortgage. All of a sudden, these significant bills started flowing through. I was 16 years old, and I thought to myself, and at that stage I had an 11-year-old brother, 2 siblings and 2 parents, and of course, one parent's out of action, one parent's trying to manage everything, and I'm now 16 thinking I've got to try to help one way or another. So I gave myself no choice but to go down to the local function centre and hassled the owner for 4 weeks in a row until he finally gave up and said, "You start tonight," because someone had called in sick and he didn't have anyone. And each time I went there, I was wearing my black pants and my white shirt, just hoping that he might give me a chance. And sure enough, I spent 5 years there, and that's where I was groomed and I did my apprenticeship, so to speak, whilst I was at high school, while I was at university, and developed a passion for this industry that I couldn't go back. I ended up doing an accounting degree, but the day that I graduated was the day that I opened up my first restaurant in St Kilda, which was the Atlantic restaurant in Fitzroy Street, St Kilda, if you remember that one. So, my journey over the last 27 years has been to work hard, continue to do what I love, continue to do what I'm passionate about, and continue to focus on building a team that wants to be involved in everything that we put our brand to. And needless to say that in the last 27 years, I've had incredible people that have come and gone on to do their own things that we've, helped support or mentor or watch them grow in the industry and go and do other things with other people. And we're excited about continuing to see that happen in the future. And if you didn't love hospitality, Dani, I don't believe you continue to do it. There's no question. It's a hard industry. It's a difficult industry. It's now harder than ever. The margins are smaller than ever. But when it's in your DNA, when it's in your bloodline, and it's what you know, it's a beautiful industry. It allows you to meet a lot of people. It allows you to connect a lot of people. And watching the excitement on people's face when we launch a venue like we did yesterday, Sophia at the Pran Arcade, and to watch the inquiries flooding in, the messages of congratulations, the excitement in staff saying I'd like to work there, and people genuinely excited about, and even locals. I had a woman, a local woman in Paran, email me and say, "I'm so excited to see something as beautiful as what you've just launched come to Paran and Chapel Street, because the area needs a lot of help. And it's exciting to see that building be redeveloped to what you guys are creating." So it's nice to receive those messages and to see people respond beautifully to doing something new and exciting as well.
Yeah, well, it definitely feels like you are investing in Melbourne, and it shows a real belief in the ability of the city to come back and for people to be there, to want those experiences that you'll be able to offer. But I just wonder, what is it like for you when, let's say you've got someone who might remind you of yourself, a kid who's coming along, whether it's they want to work or they're starry-eyed or they need to work. I mean, what do you look for in a young employee, and what would you say to anyone who was thinking about joining the industry?
Yeah, look, I still believe it's an exciting industry. I still believe that it'll continue to grow and to become great again. I look for, and we as an organisation look for people that are just excited. They've got a great attitude. They've got a good aura about them. They're enthusiastic. They show an interest, a sense of excitement, and a sense of want to do something. And if we see that someone shows that enthusiasm and shows that interest, we don't really care as an organisation how experienced they are or they aren't. We will take them on a journey, train them, educate them, show them, teach them, support them to grow. And nothing excites me more, Dani, than to watch someone who's been in our business for 3, 4, 5, 10 and goes out and opens their own cafe or their own restaurant or becomes offered a partnership. Or in many cases, we've taken them on a journey, and there's probably 5 people or 6 that I can think of that through working for our group, just due to having the right attitude and really caring and being enthusiastic, we've helped come on a journey and become shareholders in some of our own businesses. And there isn't anything more rewarding than watching someone grow in the industry. And I was that guy. 27 years ago, I hassled that guy, John, as I told you earlier, until he finally gave up. And I think that same enthusiasm that I had, and probably slightly out of desperation because I needed to work and I needed to help the family. But secondly, as I got the job and started to love the job and want to do it and leave a degree, an accounting degree, to start to grow and build venues and businesses, nothing gives me more pleasure than to watch people come on the same journey that I went on. And as long as someone's got the interest, we're excited to show them that path.
I love it. Well, Hatem, I really wish you the best with the reignition of the Melbourne events industry. And yeah, I should say Victorian, because the Ballarat project sounds really exciting too. Thanks so much for what you've brought to Melbourne, and thanks for sticking with it in the face of such adversity. I cannot wait to pick a drink up off a tray or a little COVID-safe canapé at one of your events and get the party started.
Look, Dani, we absolutely intend to do that. And I just probably want to close and thank you again for your ongoing support for the industry, watching your podcast, your Instagram messages, sending people updates, 10 minutes after the Premier announces. I know myself, I was turning to you before I went anywhere else because I got the summary that I needed to hear rather than sitting and hearing an hour interview. But I just want to say to the rest of the industry, congratulations on everyone that's been able to stick it out. I'm really sorry for anyone that hasn't been able to sustain this period. It's been a difficult time, and I know people have tried their best and invested so many life savings to give it a go. But for those people that have been able to stick it out, keep going, stay strong, stay resilient. We will be great again as a city. We will continue to deliver great hospitality in Melbourne, and we just need to support each other and give our customers what they want, and we will drive that vision for Melbourne once again to be the great city that we have always known to be.
Absolutely love it. Good rallying cry. Thank you so much, Hatem. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Dani. Great to talk to you.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtyLinen@deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.
This